Long ago, there lived on a small island a brother with a sister. They were poor, they were hungry. He went to catch fish with his spear, but sometimes he caught none. He went to the taro patch and dug up 2 roots, a big root for his sister and a small root for himself. And he gave them to his sister to prepare to eat. But when she had cooked the root, she gave him the big one and took the small one for herself. And he thought to himself, what use am I? He could not eat. In the darkness, he walked away. He decided his life had no meaning. He wanted to take his own life. So he decided he would hang himself from a tree. But if he hung himself from a tree on that small island, the other islanders would cut him down. So he changed his mind. He took a large piece of wood down to the sea. He took a heavy stone and he put it on the wood so that it floated. And he tied the heavy stone around his neck. And he swam away from the island. When the water is deep, then I will push the stone into the water, and the stone will carry me down, and there I will find my end. So he swam away from the island. He came to the coral reef, but past the coral reef he came to where the water was deep. Now it is time for me to die. And he prepared to push the stone into the water. But at that moment, he saw something in the water. A strange shape. What is that? Is it a whale? It is not moving. He swam on until he came to it. It was another island, an island he had never seen before there in the darkness. He took off the rope from round his neck and walked onto that strange island. And in the middle of the island, he found a round hut. He walked into the hut, and inside was a huge woman. She had long hair. Her eyebrows were so long that they covered her eyes. She could see nothing. In front of her, she had big, round breadfruit. She was counting them. 9 breadfruit for my 9 sons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Soon my sons will return. I must be sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I must be sure, or my sons will be angry. And she continued counting. And the young man watched this woman, and he was hungry. He crept forward silently. She could not see him. And he took one of the breadfruit. And she continued to count. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But she could not see. Where is the other breadfruit? I must be sure. I will count again. 1, 2. And she continued to count, and the young man felt bad for her. She was afraid. What would her sons do if she only had 8 breadfruit? So he took the breadfruit that he was going to eat, and he put it back in front of the old woman. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, my sons will be happy. Who is here? "Who is here?" And the young man said, "Old woman, I am here." "A human? You must be careful, child. Soon my sons will return. They will kill you and eat you. Quick, you must hide." And at that moment he heard the heavy footsteps of the 9 sons returning. But there was nowhere for him to hide. The sons stormed into the house. They were bigger than she was, but they also had long hair covering their eyes, and they could not see. But they could smell the blood of a human. "Where are you? We will eat you." And they reached with their long, strong fingers, reaching for this young man. But where could he hide? And then suddenly he was grabbed, but not by them, by the old woman. And she held him to her. And the brothers went searching through the hut. They looked everywhere, but they did not look at where their mother was. And finally they gave up. "Give us our breadfruit." And each son took his breadfruit and began to eat. When they had finished their breadfruit, they fell on the floor and began to sleep. The young man looked up at the old woman. From his belt, he took a sharp stone, and he began to cut the hair from her eyebrows until the hair was removed. And the old woman could see. She looked at him with her huge dark eyes. "You have given me the power of sight. I must go, old woman." "No," she said. "Do not go. Wait, and you will have many fish. Wait. In the morning, go with my sons. Go fishing. You will have many fish. But do not let them find you. You must stay downwind from them, so they cannot smell you." And he waited. And in the morning, at first light, the 9 sons rose from the floor, and they went out of the hut and down to the shore. And there they climbed into a great canoe. And the young brother, he went and he climbed in where they would not find him. He made sure that they did not touch him with their long, strong fingers. He stayed downwind so that they did not smell him. And they took their oars and they began to paddle out onto the sea until they came across the deep water to the coral reef where the fish swam. And then the brother was amazed, because from the bottom of that great canoe they took a net. He had never seen a fishing net before. It was woven with fibres, and they cast the net into the water. And soon the fish was swimming into the net. And the young man saw this and he was amazed. And he climbed out of the canoe into the shallow water. And the 9 brothers could not see him. He stayed out of their reach. And he tied the nets to the coral beneath the water. And now when the nets were full of delicious fish, the 9 brothers reached for the net to pull them in. And they heaved and they hauled, but the nets would not come. And they reached with their long fingers, but he stayed out of their reach. And after a long time, for those 9 blind brothers could not undo the knots, they picked up their oars and they paddled away across the deep water and back to their strange island. And the brother, he began to swim until he came to his own island, which was called Oniop. And when he got back to Oniop, there was his sister. "Oh, my brother, I thought that I would never see you again." "My sister, I also believed I would never see you again. But let us gather all of the people of the island, And when all of the people of the island were gathered together, they swam out across the water to the coral where the net was tied. And together they undid the knots, and they carried that net full of delicious fish back to the shore. And there they ate and were no longer hungry. And they used the nets again and again. They learned to make nets. And that is the story, they say, in Oniop, that island of Micronesia, of how men learned to fish with nets. It's a kind of strange story, isn't it? It's interesting. It's from another culture. And I love stories from another culture. It takes you right into... And there are these people on a small island who live from fishing. You know, and they have this mythology about how they became